Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Welcome everyone. Nice to see you all. So we're looking at we'll be discussing mercy. What does mercy mean? Shraddha will tell us the definition from the dictionary. And meanwhile, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 64, Krishna talks about how he gives mercy to those who endeavor to reach him by following his instructions. This verse, Krishna says, Raga dvesha vimuktaisthu vishayan indrayaishcharam atma vasher vidheyatma prasadam adhigachyati. So raga means attachment, dvesha and detachment, vimuktai, by one who has become free from. Two, but, vishayan, sense objects, indriyai, by the senses, charan, acting upon, atmavashe, under one's control, vidheyatma, one who follows regulated principles of freedom. Prasadam, the mercy of the Lord, adhigachyati, attains. And the translation is, but a person free from all attachment and aversion, and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Purport. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable, and if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. So, this verse gives an idea that the devotee must have some impetus and make an endeavor to please Krishna. There's a way in which we have a hierarchy of selves. The Atma is described as the body and the mind and also the soul. And in the Gita, 3rd chapter, Krishna says that lowest of all are the senses, and above the senses is the mind. And above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. So, becoming aware of this hierarchy and seeing that one has the ability to conquer the lower self by the higher self, and then endeavoring to do that by following Krishna's instruction. And that is to give everything to him. Yat koroshi yad ashnashi yad johosi dadasi yad. Yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurishva madarpanam yat tapasvasi. That if you perform austerities, if you give things away, and if you work, you should do it as a way to please me. You should give it to me. And earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said that even if you do this a little bit, It will save you from the most dangerous type of fear, which is falling back down again into complete ignorance in the material world, losing the opportunity to do this. If you just take advantage of what you're given, even a little bit. And so he says, Swalpamapya siddharmasya, trayate mahato bayat. You become freed from the fear of falling back down again into the material world. And interesting in this purport is that when one endeavors for this, then Krishna helps the devotee, and Prabhupada said, this is his mercy. So we must make some endeavor to get Krishna's mercy. In other words, we have some independence. And the moment we turn our attention to Krishna and decidedly use our freedom for his service, he gives us the power to increase. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To one who worships me with love, I give the understanding by which he can come to me. This is special mercy that Krishna is so appreciative that the devotee is turning his attention toward him, that Krishna then illuminates his heart and he gives him the direction how to come to him and how to advance in devotional service. What is the definition of mercy?
So mercy is a noun. The first meaning is compassionate or kindly forbearance shown towards an offender, an enemy, or any other person in one's power. Compassion, pity, or benevolence. For example, have mercy on the poor sinner. Second is the disposition to be compassionate or forbearing. Example, an adversary wholly without mercy. Third, the discretionary power of a judge to pardon someone or to mitigate punishment, especially to send to prison rather than invoke the death penalty. Number 4, an act of kindness, compassion, or favor. Example, she has performed countless small mercies for her friends and neighbors. Number 5, something that gives evidence of divine favor or blessing. It was just a mercy, we had our seat belts on when it happened. And just go down for the origin. So 1125 to 75, Middle English, mercy, Old French. Earlier it was merced. In Latin, merced means wages. So medieval Latin, it means heavenly reward.
Heavenly reward, mercy. Prashadam is also is translated as mercy, heavenly reward. So Krishna is in a position to give heavenly reward. That is, he's always attentive to our activities, and he has the disposition of friendliness towards the soul. So it's not a matter of whether Krishna will give me his favor, but it's only a matter of making myself open to it and accepting what's already there, actually. If we look at the environment even in the material world, we can see that it's friendly in the sense that Krishna's provided for every living entity. And that includes giving everyone an opportunity to accept a kind of body and situation according to his or her desire. Hare Krishna. That is that 8,400,000 species of life are described as a facility for fulfilling the desire of the living entity who wants to enjoy in a certain way. And Krishna has, in a sense, given mercy, provided them with the opportunity to act in that way. And when one comes to human form, Shastra says that there's a special opportunity. Nrideham adhyam sulabham sadulabham plavam sukalpam guru karnadaram. There's the Nrideham material body is very special. It gives opportunity to go across the ocean of material existence. And that's because there's more freedom. And when one uses that freedom properly to serve Krishna, voluntarily surrendering to Krishna, as Prabhupada mentions in this purport, that one can decide to do things favorable and to reject things which are unfavorable. That's our prerogative. The soul is an agent for change and can actually make these decisions. And when one does so, one invokes the mercy of Krishna. In the Gita, Krishna says, doesn't he? Ye yatamam prapadyante. What does that mean? Tamstataiva bhajamyaham. What is the meaning of this verse? Ye yatamam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham. Mama manavartante manusha parta sarvashaha. You got to use that mic.
As men surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly, O son of Bharata.
What does that mean?
Based on the devotee's approach to Krishna, Krishna reciprocates. If some person on the path of spiritual realization wants to see Krishna as Brahman, then he reciprocates accordingly. Or as Paramatma, then again same thing. Or in one of the 5 rasas. So in different ways, Krishna can reciprocate based on the inclination of the person who's...
Is reciprocation the same as a reward? He says it rewards him accordingly.
Yes.
And so, when one is, yes, Bali.
Also, my Guru Maharaj gave example always, this particular verse, that just like an LIC premium, if you have, the amount of premium, the amount of coverage you have, you are covered by the insurance company. So if you have $1 million, 1 lakh, or 5 million, based on that, you get the coverage. So similarly, Krishna's protection is also covered. 100% surrender, 100% protection, so based on that.
Madhavendra Puri had this full coverage because he didn't ask for anything and he only depended on Krishna. He never asked anybody for anything, even food. Wherever he'd go, he'd simply sit down. If someone brought him some food, he'd eat. If they didn't, he would fast. And Krishna personally came to him. A little cowherd boy showed up when he was sitting right by Govinda Kund and said, here's a pot of milk. The women here, they came to draw water from the Kund and they saw you sitting here, so here. And he said, nobody fasts here in my village. He was, Madhavendra Puri, very taken with this beautiful young boy and thought, who is this? And how does he know I'm here? And how does he know I'm fasting? And so forth. And then the boy disappeared. And Madhavendra Puri took the milk, and then he dozed a little bit later in his meditation, dreamlike state. That little boy appeared to him again and said, I'm Gopal. I'm in the bushes. When there was a Muslim attack, the Pujari hid me in the bushes and he ran off and didn't come back, and I've been here for many, many years. And he said, here's exactly where I am. You should come get me. I'm very hot, and in this situation, I need your help. So when he awoke from the dream, Madhavendra Puri went to all the people in the village, and he said, Krishna's in there. We got to get him out. And they all brought their choppers, because there was thick brush, and they had to chop through. And then they, sure enough, the deity found the deity sitting there just beneath the surface of the ground. So they took him out and they put him on a thick stone on the side of Govardhan Hill. And then Madhavendra Puri asked everyone to bring water pots. So hundreds, thousands, water pots. Devotees bring, and then he began to bathe the deity And then he said, feed him. And then from all the villages, everyone brought offerings. And they all took care of Gopal. And then gradually, and everyone from each village gave one cow, so he could have fresh milk for Gopal. And then 2 Brahmins came from Bengal, who Madhavendra Puri initiated as Vaishnavas. They just were first-class pujaris. And gradually they built a temple around the deity, and then he had another dream. And Gopal said, I'm still very hot. No matter how much you've bathed me, I need sandalwood paste. Please go get sandalwood paste. And that was very difficult, because he had to travel all the way to Jagannath Puri, and there was all paperwork. It was hard getting around India at that time. You had to walk everywhere. He went and got the sandalwood, and he stopped in Ramuna at the temple of Gopinath. And there he had seen how the pujaris were making this really nice sweet rice for Gopinath. And he thought, did Madhavendra Puri, I wish I could taste it so I'd know how to make it for Gopal. And then he thought, I'm such an offender. I thought about tasting the Lord's food before it's been given to him, and now he went away into the marketplace to beg forgiveness. And that night, Gopinath stole some of the sweet rice that had been offered to him. He put it behind him, and then he called the pujari in a dream and said, I've stolen some sweet rice. You come get it. It's for my devotee Madhavendra Puri. So Pujari woke up, took his bath, went to the Pujari room, looked behind the dress of Gopinath, and there was the hidden sweet rice. And then he took it, he went out into the market, which was all closed down at night, and he was calling out, if anybody here named Madhavendra Puri, please come get this sweet rice. You're the most fortunate person in the universe. So Madhavendra Puri came out and he got that sweet rice, and he took it with such satisfaction that it was the loving reciprocation of his deity. And then he took the pot, the little clay pot, and he broke it up. He kept that, and every day he'd eat a little piece of that pot. Then he thought, now people will hear about this, that the deity has shown me favor. So he didn't want any notoriety or any fame, so he immediately left that place before the sun came up, because he knew people would come there to see him, touch his feet, ask him for Ashirabad, and he ran away. And meanwhile, when he was carrying back all this sandalwood, it was very heavy. He had a helper, but he had to have paperwork and pay special tolls just to bring it back to Gopal. And then he had another dream when his deity Gopal appeared to him and said, I'm non-different from Gopinath. So you should stay there in Ramuna and grind all the sandalwood paste and offer it to Gopinath. His body is the same as mine. So the pujaris there were very happy to hear this, because it was a rare commodity. And they ground it up. They had a festival offering this beautiful sandalwood paste to Gopinath. And Madhavendra Puri, the most surrendered devotee who didn't care for himself. Krishna completely cares for those who don't care for themselves. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana parupasite tesham nityabdhyuktanam yogakshemam ahamyaham. Krishna says, don't worry about protecting maintenance. He said, let me do that. And you just meditate on me. Ananyas chintayanto mam. What a beautiful word, ananya. Chintayanto mam. It means let your consciousness be only absorbed in me. How does that sound, everyone? Nice, eh? Yeah, it's nice. It's the best. When one is able to just give one's full consciousness to Krishna with no concern about anything else, of course, giving one's consciousness to Krishna means one will be concerned about everything else, because Krishna is within everything, and his service is connected to everything. So it's not that one becomes indifferent to the world, but one becomes more attentive, but is seeing everything in relationship to Krishna in a very powerful way. So there is a relationship that we have with Krishna, and we can experience his mercy through the process of surrender. Now that's something interesting, because that means that we can reinvent ourselves at any time and decide that now I'm going to surrender. In this very moment, we can surrender to Krishna, and he reciprocates. Yeyata mam prapadyante. Just as one surrenders to me, prapadyante, tams tataiva bhajamyaham. Mamavart manuvartante manusha partasarva. Everyone is in the same position. Everyone's either surrendering, thank you, or not surrendering to Krishna. And he's reciprocating accordingly. Prahlad Maharaj said to Lord Nrsingadev, you're just like a desire tree, and you don't consider the lower or the higher. You simply reward a person's desire, whatever it is. The desire tree gives you whatever you want. So Krishna's like that too, he said. He fulfills the desires of everyone. So if one is ananya chintayanto mam, if one puts one's consciousness in Krishna, in his service, yejana pariyupasate, he's only worshipping Krishna. Tesham nityabdi yuktanam ye yogakshemam vahamyaham. Vahami means I personally carry what you lack, and I preserve what you have. So Vahami means personally carries what the devotee lacks. So this is very merciful. Krishna is very merciful. So why aren't I getting more mercy? Maybe. What is the reason?
Krishna gives the mercy in proportion to the surrender that we give him.
Because Krishna gives mercy in proportion to one's surrender?
And the surrender, yeah.
So I'm not surrendered enough. And Srivas, yeah?
Offenses.
Okay. Can you say it in the microphone and explain yourself, please?
Because of offenses, because of my offensive and sinful nature, Krishna doesn't show. And it's my struggle to overcome my offenses and anarthas, and then Krishna will say, you are serious? Okay, let me get serious too. So.
How do you do that?
Through effort, through one's own effort, and by begging mercy from higher cause, both in parallel. They should.
Can you give a specific example? What is an offense anyway? Example of an offense.
Any habit which is there in past conditioning, either impatience or intolerance or envy. It can be even subtle, very subtle. So those kind of offenses, if one can overcome, then Krishna will help.
Sachi.
To not follow the order of the spiritual master
is an offense.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many offenses against the holy name.
Can you name some?
To chant inattentively.
Chant inattentively. Why is that offensive?
Well, if you're chanting, Krishna is present. So if Krishna is present and you're inattentive, it's offensive to Krishna because you're ignoring him.
So the theory we're working on here is that Srivas Prabhu brought up that we're not getting mercy at the level we might expect because of making offenses. And you brought up some specific offenses that one might consider, like being inattentive while chanting. So that means the mercy's coming, but I'm not paying attention to it. Something like that, right? And also, I get some instruction from the spiritual master, but then I decide not to follow it. And because of that, then I don't experience the mercy, or the mercy is withheld. Is it withheld? Yes, okay. Kanka?
Sometimes the mercy comes and we don't realize it's mercy. Because it can be mercy in the form of something really terrible or something really good. But it's always a lesson, no matter which way it comes.
Okay, let's look at that for a minute. That's a whole nother interesting aspect of mercy. Mercy that doesn't seem like mercy, it seems like something else. Please bring up 1:8:20? Huh? 1:8:14? Vipada santuta sasvat tatra tatra jagad guru bhavato darshanam yatsyad apunar bhavadarshanam. This is a statement by Queen Kunti. What's the number? 1:8. We're talking Bhagavatam now. 1:8:25. Okay. I still believe in paper books. Vipada santata shasvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyad apunar bhavadarshanam. So in this verse, as we scroll down, we see the word for word. As we scroll up, vipada, calamities, vipada. So the material world is full of vipada, as mentioned in Bhagavatam. Samasrita ye padapalava plavam mahat padam punya yasho mararehe bhavam budir vatsa param padam yad vipadam natesham. That one should take shelter of Murari, killer of the Mura demon, and the protector of the whole universe. And one shouldn't take shelter of the material world, which is vipadam, means it's danger at every step. There's calamity at every step. Vipadam, whoops, there's some calamity comes. So don't take shelter in the material world. It's foolhardy. So vipada means calamities. Santu means let there be. So now this is an interesting point about this kind of mercy that Kanka brought up. She's saying, let there be this vipadam. Vipada santu, let there be calamities. Ta all shashvat, again and again. She wants calamities over and over again in her life. Vipada santu ta shashvat, tatra, here and there. Jagat Guru, O Lord of the universe, please bring calamity into my life. Again and again. Bhavata darshanam yat syat. Why? Because syat, this darshan, when there's real calamity, then that's when I get your darshan. When everything's peaceful and nice and I feel like I've got everything I need, I have enough money and enough food in the refrigerator and a full tank of gas, and everything's okay, then I think, oh, I'm all right. And people think this all the time, or say this all the time. We present a transcendental literature, and they say, I'm all right. No, sir, you are not. Neither am I. Nobody's all right. But Queen Kunti, she's praying for calamities. Why? Because I meet you. In those calamities, I get the most mercy out of the calamity. Darshanam yat syat. That's when they arise, when the real darshan comes in my life, when I get calamities. Apunar bhavadarshanam. And therefore, when I see you, I no longer get the repeated birth and death. Apunar bhavadarshanam. So no more do I see bhava. Bhava means birth, death, old age, and disease. And darshanam, I won't see this anymore because I'm seeing you. So let the calamities come now. Devotees are very sober, like King Kulashekar is saying, Krishna Todiya pada pankaja pancharartam Todiya. That, what is it? Advaiva Vijhe Manasa Raja Hamsa. He says, now that I'm healthy, kill me now, Krishna, kill me. Because now I'm healthy, I can think of you. And my mind is tangled up in the stems of your lotus feet. Just like the swans, they like to play in these beautiful lakes where there's lotus flowers growing and they have all these stems and they get entangled in the stems there, and they sport there and they enjoy it. What page? 413. Krishna Tvadiya Padapankacha Pancharartam Adyaiva Me Vishati Rajas. 4 what? 413. Yeah, Krishna Tvadiya Padapankacha Panjarartam Adyaiva Me Vishatu Manasa Rajahamsa Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavata Pitai Kantava Rodana Vidao Smaranam Kutaste. Another prayer for special mercy. O my Krishna, my Lord Krishna, I pray that the swan of my mind may immediately sink down to the stems of the lotus feet of your Lordship and be locked up in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up with cough, how will it be possible to think of you? Anyway, Prabhupada describes that as a verse where he's asking that better that I die now rather than at a time when I'm not able to think of you. So Queen Kunti, you scroll down, she says, I wish that all those calamities will happen again and again so that we can see you again and again. For seeing you means we will no longer see repeated birth and death. Generally, the distressed, the needy, the intelligent scroll, and the inquisitive who have performed some pious activities worship or begin to worship the Lord. Others who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme due to being misled by the illusory energy. Therefore, for a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is a point that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna arto jignasa artarti gyani cha bharatarshaba. That 4 kinds of pious people, sukritis, surrender to me when they're in need of wealth, when they are in calamity, when they are inquisitive, and when they're in knowledge of the Absolute. And so they're sukritis. So therefore, for a pious person, if there's some calamity, there's no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly. Remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nescience, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hooves of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger at every step. That's the verse I just quoted. This material world is certified by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities. What is the duty of a sane person? What is your occupation? Being undisturbed by various calamities. You can put that on your customs form when you go into a country. What do? I remain undisturbed, no matter what you say to me. I'm undisturbed. Which are sure to happen in all circumstances. That's interesting too. That are sure to happen in all circumstances. That's a clue. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization because that is the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. So, yeah, hold it right there. And just interesting that one can make advancement in all circumstances. There's no material impediment to advancing in devotional service. In fact, we find here that even in the most adverse situations called calamity, that one can move forward in spiritual life even more handily than perhaps at other times. Okay, the spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are false. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. Actually, there's no tiger, and there's no suffering. It is simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. Contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. So, Kanka got us into this realm of mercy, taking mercy from the Lord in ways that we may not see immediately. In other words, some calamity might come, and I think that why is God doing this to me? And then later I realize that, wow, I'm glad he did that to me. Otherwise I would have been stuck where I was. Of course, the prime example is Maharaj Parikshit, who when asked, do I have a first canto? I do. Can you find it, please? When he was cursed by Shringi, he actually didn't take it very badly. That was a calamity, eh? You got everything going for you? You're a emperor of the world, perhaps, and got a beautiful body and family and everything, and then someone says, you die, and you have 7 days, and then he takes it as mercy. That's kind of interesting, right? Yeah, Trishab. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, from reading about the words, this world is basically described as illusion, right? So there's the soul and our interaction with it, like the false ego's interaction with it is an illusion, basically. So like there's a soul, and then the false ego is experiencing disease, but the soul itself is aloof from it because it's our interaction with the material world that is causing the pain and causing the different, happiness, distress.
Fifth canto. Give me a fifth canto, please. Part 1.
And so I was thinking that is okay, but then
Bharat Maharaj instructing Maharaj Rahugana. Yes?
I was thinking that how about death though? Like, if someone gets a snake bite or someone is attacked by a tiger, that is also in the illusory world, like in the material world.
Yeah.
But why does the body die, even though it's an illusion?
Well, the body's already dead. We just inhabit a dead body, but we animate it. And then when the body gets disjointed, so we can't use it anymore. When the body is disjointed, we can't use it anymore, then we go to another body. But in one sense, the dreaming that we have at night, for instance, although it is illusory, it's not that we don't suffer. So if someone's suffering and then we say, oh, it's just illusion, you're not really suffering, that's not true. The soul, although we have no contact with the material world, there is a way in which we suffer because of our illusory contact. If you see at night a rope, but you think it's a snake, and you jump and you bang your head into the wall, you suffered something, even though it's an illusion. You can suffer from the illusion because you're connecting yourself to it. It's temporary. We say the material world's temporary, and illusory doesn't mean that it's false. It just means it's a false representation of something that's real, and then that reminds us of the real thing, and it scares us. But whether you're dreaming at night or you're dreaming in the day, that I am this body. Ahankara means I am the doer. Ahankara, I do. You're not actually doing. You're being forced by the modes of material nature in various ways, and thinking that you're the doer. There are actually 5 factors of action. Your impetus to act in a certain way is only one of the insignificant, well, it's one of the factors of action. But there are many other factors that come into play. And yes, whether you get swallowed by a real tiger, I mean, you don't die. When Socrates was asked to drink poison, he said, okay, no problem. I mean, they said, stop preaching your thing and, take this poison if you don't, and prove your philosophy. And he said, I'll drink it because I'm not my body. I'm not really dying. And at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna explained to Arjuna that all of these relatives and friends and teachers that you see before you, you're identifying in a certain way, but actually he who thinks that the self is the slayer, or those people are slain, is an illusion, because the soul isn't the slayer and isn't slain also. It can't be cut, burned, dried, and so forth. But our connection with the material world causes us to stay here and also to suffer. Asango hyayam purushaha. We have no real connection with the material world except for our desire for it, our attachment to it. So King Parikshit, when he heard that he had been cursed by Shringi, you got me lined up here? Okay, furthermore, Maharaj Parikshit was always consciously surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he was neither afraid nor overwhelmed by fear due to a snake bird which was to bite him because of the fury of the Brahmin boy. This is 1:18:2. Furthermore, after leaving all his associates, the king surrendered himself as a disciple to the son of Vyas, Shukadeva Goswami, and thus he was able to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. This was so because those who have dedicated their lives to the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead, of whom the Vedic hymns sing, and who are constantly engaged in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, do not run the risk of having misconceptions even at the last moment of death. As long as the great powerful son of Abhimanyu remains the emperor of the world, there is no chance that the personality of Kali will flourish. Yeah, and he also says that to let the snake bird or whatever magical thing this Brahmin boy has conjured bite me at once. I simply desire that you go on singing the glories of the personality of Godhead. And regarding this illusory representation we have with the material world, we have the instructions of Jad Bharat to Maharaj Rahugana. Which I'm sure you'll like to hear. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Here's Jad Bharat speaking to Maharaj Rahugana, 5:12:9. One may say that varieties arise from the planet Earth itself. However, although the universe may temporarily appear to be truth, it ultimately has no real existence. The Earth was originally created by a combination of atomic particles, but these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe, although some philosophers think so. It is not a fact that the varieties found in this material world simply result from atomic juxtaposition or combination. Since this universe has no real ultimate existence, the things within it, shortness, difference, grossness, skinniness, smallness, bigness, result, cause, living symptoms, and materials are all imagined. They are all pots made of the same substance, earth, but they are named differently. The differences are characterized by the substance, nature, predisposition, time, and activity. You should know that all these are simply mechanical manifestations created by material nature. Maharaj Rahugana asked a similar question. He said, it does seem like I'm my body, and I can't see how you're saying that I'm not really connected to this material world and so forth. But Maharaj Ajad Bharat goes to great lengths to describe to him how we're not really connected with the material body. Srivas, you were going to say something more about that?
Thank you. Maybe a little more explanation, because it's an because as Rahugana says that I'm carrying the load and my body feels the weight. So how can we practically perceive that we are different, or at least even theoretically, how can we strengthen that theory to the point that we actually realize that? If you can a little bit explain more, that will be wonderful.
Go ahead.
No,
say.
No, Prabhuji, I really wanted to get the answer from you. I think my limited understanding is that after a certain time, when we actually render our devotional service, we completely start seeing ourselves different from what that's happening, and even the pain also can kind of not be so much inflicting, or one cannot experience that. That's my limited understanding, but if you can correct me.
Sure. I mean, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Matra Sparshasta Kontaya Shitoshna Sukha Dukada Agama Payino Nityas Tantikshashva Bharata. And Dehinosmin Yata Dehe Komaran Yavaram Jara Tata Dehantara Praptir Dhiras Tatra Namuyati. That a person has to learn to tolerate. And the symptom of one who is self-realized, Krishna says in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Stita Pragna, he isn't disturbed by ups or downs in the material world. The miseries don't affect him. And then he says, in these other verses, you have to learn to tolerate the changes. And then he said, a person who is dhira, he can tolerate even the change of body. He's not affected by it because he sees, oh, the body's changing. And he sees himself different. Naiva kinchit koromiti yukto manyet tatvavit pashyan shrinvan sprisanjigran ashnan gachan swapanchvasan pralapan vishvajan grinnan unmishan nimishan napi indriyateshu vartanta iti dharayan. Krishna says in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that all these activities, for a person who is absorbed in divine consciousness, the activities of the senses, he doesn't identify with them at all. He thinks that only they're active and I'm not acting. It's kind of like when you turn on your dishwasher and you just push the button and then it starts going and you hear all these different cycles going and there's, okay, keep going, you're doing okay. And the same thing with a self-realized person, he's just observing, okay, now the body's going through this sleep stage and now the body's digesting, and now it's eliminating, and now it's taking in something, and thinking, okay, that's nice, fine, whatever, I'm busy, The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned that he only went through the motions of all these daily activities externally, but he was not connected to them at all because he was so absorbed in serving Krishna and so forth. Anyway, the mercy may come to us in ways that we don't see at first. And as far as calamity goes, the Yadavas, mentioned in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, when Narada Muni met them on his quest to find out who is the most advanced devotee in the world, he met them, and they were there trying to figure out how to create a calamity, because then Krishna would come back and be with them. Because whenever there was big calamities, that's when he would show up and be most present. I don't know why they opened it. But it's okay, I guess, unless there's noise. Yes, go ahead.
No, someone was just trying to give it to someone.
Okay.
So, Prabhuji, how you were saying that calamity is welcome so that one can serve Krishna. So, Prabhupada also says that poverty is kind of a blessing and it's, of course, a calamity. But why is it that though the calamity is coming upon various people, like so many people are poor, but nobody becomes a devotee. So
That's the
what is
answer
it
to what
that-
we said earlier. They're not sukriti.
Oh,
They don't have any sukriti. If someone has sukriti, which means somehow they have this good fortune of having faith in God, they've come in contact somehow with a devotee, they have this sentiment of believing God. When there's a shortage, when there's a calamity, something happens, they immediately turn. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna arto jignasa artarti gyani cha bharatarshaba. These people are sukritis. And an atheist, when something bad happens, then goes on CNN and says, why do bad things happen to good people? It used to be Larry King, but he retired, so they got to go somewhere else. But they go on and they say, why all these, innocent people are dying, therefore I don't believe in God, and, and why do bad things happen to good people, and so forth. And when something good happens, they say, I don't need God, because I'm so smart. And look at science is advanced and God's dead and everything like that. These are people who duskritis. Namam duskritinam buddha, prapadyante naradama, maya pritagyana asuram bhavamashrita. 2 classes. Follow up?
Yes, so that helps.
Okay.
One more question is, how do we quantify calamity? Because whatever can be a calamity to me cannot be to others, right? So what is actually a calamity? Because people might not think that it's a normal way of living because you're born here. So why do you call it a calamity? Like that. So how do we qualify that? What is
one man's food is another man's poison. Like that, you mean? How do you define what's a calamity? Well, first of all, Shraddha's looking it up. So we're going to tell you exactly what calamity means and where it comes from. Go ahead.
Calamity is a great misfortune or disaster, such as a flood or serious injury. Grievous affliction, adversity, misery, like the calamity of war. Origin is 1375 to 1425, late Middle English, calamite, Middle French, Latin calamitat, perhaps akin to incolumitas, safety. That's all it says.
Kanka has a point. Needs a mic back there. It's on. You're good. Was good. Now it's off. There you go.
Okay. I just read in Achutananda's book that Srila Prabhupada, it was a quote from Srila Prabhupada when someone asked the same question about, why do so many bad things happen? And he said, the sun goes in at night and then the thieves come out. So does that mean the sun is bad because the thieves decide to come out at night?
That's great. Thank you. That's a winner. Worth the price of admission, Kanka.
Actually, Prabhupada also gives an explanation for that in the prayers of Lord Brahma, that verse Tattenukampam. And he says in the purport that even when one is 100% surrendered to, or sort of almost 100% surrendered to Krishna, then Krishna gives them, they still have a little bit of tendency to enjoy the material world. So then God gives them these calamities so that even the last vestiges of that desire to enjoy come out.
Yeah,
them.
Special mercy. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Just as Gandharvika Mataji was asking the question about so many people who are in poverty but they don't surrender to God, my eyes just fell on this one, and the words that came up, it's the opposite of what I just would like to mention. And it's given, it's from Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya 3.12. It's for a person devoid of, page number 405.
In your shloka books. I don't think we gave shloka books. Can you give books to the devotees in the back? 405. Okay, go ahead.
It says, and my eyes just fell onto this when she was asking this question, for a person devoid of devotional service, birth in a great family or nation, knowledge of revealed scripture, performance of austerities and penance, and chanting of Vedic mantras are all like ornaments on a dead body. Such ornaments simply serve the concocted pleasures of the general populace.
So expound, why did you bring it up?
Interestingly, as it was the opposite of what I just felt what was being asked, in the sense that she was asking about the people who are in poverty but they don't surrender, as well as the opposite is the people who are kind of in a well-established position but they don't surrender. So what does that mean? So that my eyes just fell onto that. It was right there.
Nice. Good. So we're talking about mercy, how Krishna gives mercy, and we've talked about how Krishna is always giving his mercy. Speaking of the sun, Prabhupada also mentions in his purport in Queen Kunti that if one goes in the sunshine, gets great benefit, health benefits from the sun. But if one goes in one's house and closes the shades and makes it dark inside, then one can't take advantage of the sun. So one of the themes that we're working on today as far as mercy goes is that Krishna's always giving mercy. He's never inattentive. But it's my inability to accept mercy, to appreciate the mercy that he's giving, or to attract it in any way. Is there a way in which to attract Krishna's special mercy? In other words, he's giving mercy to everyone. He says in the Gita, Samaham sarvabhuteshu name dveshosti na priyaha. I'm equal to everyone. I envy no one. No one's a friend or enemy because he's the absolute supreme Lord. He has no reason to envy anyone or to specially favor anyone, does he? Or is there a way to attract special favor from Krishna? And if so, how could you prove it? Shraddha's got something. I don't know what it is yet, but I know she's got something.
I was going to say, to get Krishna's mercy, we should serve his devotees, because Krishna likes his devotees more than him.
Prove
like
it.
You always give that example. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjun to proclaim that Kaunteya pratejanehi name bhaktya pranashyati. He could have declared it himself, but he asks Arjun to do that because he makes sure that the words of his devotee will never get false.
Okay, that's nice.
And you always say that that if you want to get the favor of somebody, you should always appreciate their dog, and you get their attention.
Love my dog. Yeah. Okay, Srivas has got something. Here comes the mic.
In one of the verses, it is said that Lord Shiva says to Parvati that amongst the best of the worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu, but even greater than worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of his devotees.
Okay. So attracting, we're talking about, can you attract Krishna's mercy? He's equal to everyone, but can you attract more mercy from Krishna? And if so, how? Gandharvika?
This is a prayer that you always insist. It's on page 400. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It says that, O my Lord, I do not have any love for you, nor am I qualified for discharging devotional service by chanting and hearing, nor do I possess the mystic power of a Vaishnava, knowledge or pious activities, nor do I belong to a very high caste family. On the whole, I do not possess anything. Still, O beloved of the gopis, because you bestow your mercy on the most fallen, I have an unbreakable hope that is constantly in my heart. That hope is always giving me pain. I was just thinking, by realizing how Krishna is merciful, one can attract Krishna. Because like how parents, if we realize how parents are giving us, facilitating us for everything, just by that realization as Paramatma, Krishna gives us his mercy, like that. So that's praying, actually, praying with realization.
Praying for mercy. Okay.
realization.
Otherwise, why would we pray, right? Like in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prayers, one second for now, you'll get your moment. And in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prayers, he says, She Harinam Mantra, Lao Tumi Magi. Magi means beg. So he says, beg for the holy name. And then at the end, he says, Bhaktivinoda surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said, and begging, he received that holy name. So your point is valid, that there's a way in which if we pray and we beg, please give me more mercy. Because after all, if you beg, somebody might give, right? Okay, Vrindavan, go ahead, sir.
So how will we know when Krishna gives us mercy?
Well, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni notices the Pandavas, and he says that Krishna lives in your house with you. He sometimes acts as your message carrier. He's your best friend and confidant. He said, who's getting more mercy than you? One who has attracted the presence of Krishna in their lives, we can understand from that, is getting mercy. Also, by appreciating the verse we first read, Ragadvesho Vimukhtaistu, Vishan Indrayaischaran Atmavasher Vedhyatma Prasadam Adhigacchati. Vrindavan, we read a verse before you came in which Krishna in the Gita says that one who follows the regulative principles of freedom can attract the complete mercy of the Lord. And then he mentions that the activities of such a person, and he says that person is no longer affected by the changes of the material world, and is able to withdraw his senses within, as the tortoise draws his limbs within a shell. So another way we can see that someone's attained mercy of Krishna, besides Krishna's living in their house, is that they're able to take full advantage of devotional service. In other words, there's a way in which Narottam Das Thakur, I believe, sings that I'm not able to take full advantage of this devotional service, therefore I am being punished by Yamaraj. And to the degree that one is able to take full advantage of Krishna's mercy and actually perform devotional service without hindrance, we can understand such a person is getting mercy. These are symptoms. Yes, Sudeep.
Based on the verse Tattenukampam, if we patiently tolerate the reactions of our past misdeeds and at the same time keep on offering respectful obeisances, would we attract mercy of the Lord?
I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, as you're pointing out, so, humbly, from quoting the verse, yes, the verse is saying that one who patiently waits for my mercy and expects it, but at the same time tolerates all the reactions caused by past misdeeds, becomes eligible to receive the full mercy of the Lord. So this is a formula for attracting mercy, actually. This is the quintessential verse. We haven't actually shown it yet, but we can. 10:14:8. Tattenukampam susamikshamano. 10:14:8. Kunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Hridvagvapur vidadam namaste. Jiveta yo mukti pade sadayabhak. Sadayabhak means an inheritor. An inheritor, hey, nice. An inheritor. An inheritor. An inheritor means that this is Sadayabhak, the eldest son inherits the wealth of the father, the kingdom, and the position after the father by the law of primogeniture. And so this is being used in this verse by Brahma to explain that that if one is tolerant earnestly waits for the Lord to bestow his causeless mercy and patiently suffers the reactions. Vipaka means that he knows, what do we say in English? You made your bed, now you have to lie in it. Have you ever heard that? You made your bed, now you lie in it. Or something, say, he's cooked in his own juices. It's like you did it to yourself, now you suffer the consequence, right? That's the mood of the devotee. And really this verse where it's saying, Atma Kritam, done by himself. You see that? Third line down on the right. Atma Kritam in this verse means, I did it to myself. Whatever's coming to me now, endure because I did it to myself, vipakam. So also this word vipakam, the fruitive result, our pundit, Mukunda Datto Prabhu, has told me that this word vipakam is related to the hell called kumbhipaka. And kumbhipaka is the kind of hell where people who commit sinful activities, like down at Fisherman's Wharf, they boil live lobsters and stuff like that. So next life they get to be boiled in the. So you did it to yourself, basically. This is one of the great lessons of karma, that you're doing to somebody else, you're actually doing it to yourself. It comes right back to you. You're connected with everybody and everything, actually. There's no independent. So vipakam, you're boiling yourself. You boiled yourself. And so the devotee actually, when these reactions come, understands that they're playing themselves out. They're not going to come they're burning themselves out. Someone today at our class at Google asked, when you perform yoga, are you freed from karma? And I quoted from the Brahma Samhita. And Lord Brahma there says, yes, Twindra Gopamata Vendra Mahosa Karma Bandhanu Rupa Palabhajanam Atanoti. And that is from Brahma from Indra down to the Indra Gopa, tiny little insect. All are getting the results of their past karma. Atma Kritam, what they did to themselves. He said, but those who are engaged in bhakti bhajan, yes, Twindra Gopamata Vendra Mahosa Karma Bandhanu Rupa Palabhajanam Atanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. Someone engaged in bhakti bhajan, worshiping Krishna, their karma is being taken away. And in fact, now we'll look at the purport, which Shraddha so kindly brought up for us. Purport, Srila Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of bhakti yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. The word susamikshamana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, one of my favorite devotees that I correspond with, paralyzed from the neck down most of her life. And just like, yeah, Krishna gave me a really good position in this life to practice Krishna consciousness and tolerance. Goes on preaching like anything, going to the holy places, very powerful devotee because of her surrender and acceptance of this principle. And it's not just artificial, it's not mental or something. With her whole heart, she takes this, and you can just see she's empowered by this, empowered by the so-called setback that she's had in her life. When she was younger, dove into a river and broke her spine, and was paralyzed from the neck down. But it doesn't hinder her at all. Beautiful artist, paints with her mouth. You can't tell, looks like, world-class artist, writes Sanskrit, everything. And is powerfully preaching. to other people, bringing them into Krishna consciousness and so forth. So this is not just theoretical, but devotees actually embrace this fully. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. They may resemble sinful reactions. So what happened to you? I know that resembles a sinful reaction. But the purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord. And therefore, the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activities. Two of the most powerful sentences in the Bhagavatam, written by the servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Worth the price of admission, just these two sentences. So eloquently put, and so perfectly following the parampara. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness in this world. Look at the word inclination. You know, an incline, things roll down in that direction. It's like, you have to, because as Rameshwar Prabhu pointed out in his class in New Vrindavan, he said, think how many lifetimes I've practiced sense gratification. I'm really good at it. And so in this life, don't think that just because you're turning it around now that you won't have muscle memory from your sense gratification in your previous incarnations. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing His devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to Godhead. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardships a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated by the words daya bhak. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the Supreme Pure, Lord Krishna, without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact the curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. Now we'd like to welcome all the devotees who joined us online, and thank you very much for being here with us tonight. And we'll take texts that have come in. Questions or comments? There are 3. Shraddha, go ahead.
We have Hansapriya Mataji on the phone, online, and she said that I just read very beautiful thing about the mercy of the Lord that really struck me, and I wanted to share it with everyone. And so this is from a calendar. I think it's a Dex calendar, so she just sent me a picture of that. The devotee hopes against hope that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. He never gets discouraged. He is confident that if he endeavors in executing devotional service to the best of his ability, Krishna will definitely help him out.
Nice. Thank you, Hatsapriya.
We also have Lavanya Mataji on the phone, and she has a comment. So, Danvat Pranam. This lecture is very interesting and very interactive. Jai. And the third message is from Govind Charan Prabhu, and he says, one of the 6. You want to read? Okay, he wants to read.
One of the six symptoms of bhakti is Sri Krishna Karshini attracts even Krishna.
Sri Krishna Karshini, yes. Pure devotional service attracts even Krishna. In fact, that's really what else would he be attracted to? Because devotional service is Krishna's internal potency. He's not attracted to his external potency, but his internal potency. And those who have come in contact with this internal potency and who become the vessels of that actually attract Krishna's attention. And Krishna is attached to his pure devotees. So to the degree that one has that surrender and that sentiment of pure devotion, and is in contact, therefore, with the internal potency of the Lord, one can attract Krishna's personal attention. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. I like the point that you made about that devotee who is corresponding with you, and it's really very encouraging how by surrender you get empowerment. I can feel that, and I can. And regarding mercy, I like that one point you always make that, and also like the theme that you quoted of Brihad Bhagavata Mitra, in which Narad Muni is searching, and then how each devotee is forwarding to another devotee that he has got more mercy. And similar line when Kunti Maharani says in her prayer that Sridhavanti Gayanti Gridanti Abhikshansha Smaranti Nandadita Vehitam Jana. So in that he says that even those who praise others, so they take on the quality, and that is the way of invoking the mercy of the Lord if we praise the others' quality. I was just seeing that thread.
Nice. Appreciating the mercy that other devotees are getting and not being envious of that is a sure way to attract mercy to oneself. Grinanti means accepting or appreciating. Vishaka Leela?
Prabhu, I just made one observation that there are many instances in Srimad Bhagavatam where even the pure devotees were put to test by the Lord, like Chitraketu Maharaj and King Indradumna. He was, for no fault of his, he was cursed, and then he took birth as Gajendra, and then he had to go through that calamity, and then the Lord from within helped him remember a prayer from his previous life. So one thing that I was thinking is how Srimad Bhagavatam is all about pure devotees being put into calamities, and the Lord does that in order to bestow His mercy and actually glorify them, glorify their position even more. So I have this question again and again in my heart. I feel like there is again this fear of surrender, because I feel if I give myself to Krishna fully and I have to go through this, of course, I mean, I'm not at the level of Chitraketu Maharaj or, gopis, but how can I get that confidence that, that I can surrender to Krishna and Krishna will protect me no matter what?
By taking advantage of whatever opportunities you have now, then you develop a relationship. There's always some surrender you can make. If you look at a big jump, it may seem very difficult, but even in the small surrenders that you can take moment to moment, I mean, you have a choice, look at this or look at that. And the moment you use your free will and say, I'm going to look at the Bhagavatam and not at the internet, something like that, then you'll feel like, oh, okay, I just surrendered. It's accepting those things favorable, rejecting those things unfavorable. They happen moment to moment. And there's an old saying, actually my father used to tell me this when we were getting ready to go to the mountains. He used to take us backpacking, which means you got to carry all your stuff on your back and go into the wilderness for several days. And so you have to carry as little as possible. And he would say, if you watch out for the ounces, the pounds will watch out for themselves. And so, I always remember that in packing also for traveling and things like that. But similarly, in every little circumstance that you have to surrender now, if you do the small things, then you'll have a tendency to develop that. You'll develop that tendency to surrender more and more. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the example of climbing a ladder. You put a foot on the rung, and then you feel your foot is firm, then you move to the next. I think your father was first. Vrindavan.
I was thinking the 5 potent forms of devotional service.
Yeah.
Chanting the holy name, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, associating and serving devotees, worshipping the deity in the temple and living in a holy place. They are ways to receive Krishna's mercy.
Yeah, definitely. Special mercy for those who take advantage of, as we said earlier, the instructions of the Lord, and He gives these special instructions that we can take advantage of. For instance, there's 64 items of devotional service, but then He tells Sanatana Goswami there are 5 that are so powerful and potent that even if you don't have faith in them, if you have a little connection with them, you'll make progress, extraordinary progress. They're so powerful. Living in the holy Dham, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, worshipping the deities, and chanting Hare Krishna. These things together. Vrindavan, you have a point? And then Harivamsha.
I have a question. So can Krishna give messages through people?
Yeah. Yeah, you can give messages through people. Sringananda Brahmachari was a person in Chaitanya Lila that was fully empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, it said he lived in his body, and he would he instructed through his devotee, actually, literally like that. But even through, we say, through various living entities that we call the Vartmana Pradarshaka Guru, the Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, and so forth. There's a way that sometimes through another living entity, somebody will get an instruction Krishna gives. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami, the author, gives the example of Bilvamangal Thakur, the great devotee, Leela Sukh, who in the beginning of his life was very much attached to his girlfriend, and he used to go visit her all the time. And one night, it was a big storm, and he had to make his way through the storm to see his girlfriend, and he climbed a wall, grabbed a rope, turned out to be a snake. He had to cross a moat, grabbed a log, turned out to be a dead body. Came in bedraggled, and his girlfriend said, if you had even a little bit of this kind of enthusiasm for devotional service, you'd become a great devotee. And so she inspired him. And even in his literatures later on, he glorifies. First he says, I offer my respectful obeisances to my Varmana Pradakshaka Guru who showed me the way. So Krishna might speak through somebody that it was unlikely. You know, I got my first Back to Godhead magazine through Richie Corsa, my friend from high school. He brought it to my house, said, I'm not interested in this stuff, but I know you are. And to this day, he calls me once a year and says, you know, if I never do anything good in my life, and it looks like I probably won't, I know I did one good thing. And as I got you into this, you always remember that. I got you into this, you know. So, I always remember him as one of my gurus. So Krishna spoke through that person. Harivamsha, you were ready next, right? Yeah.
So I would just I was reflecting on when you were explaining about how you were corresponding with a devotee with paralyzed body from neck down. So I was just thinking that expecting mercy or, getting empowered by Krishna, feeling Krishna is kind of independent of any external conditions. Despite of the fact your externals change, may go up and down, but you can still from the heart, keep expecting mercy and then be satisfied. That's a very enlightening meditation. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. It's inspiring to see others who have more challenging situations than I do, and their consciousness is more elevated than mine. Then I think, oh, I'm such a miser. I have so much and I'm barely using it, and I'm complaining all the time that why don't you give me more facility, Krishna? And then you see somebody with practically no facility, and they're using it so marvelously in such a way that it attracts Krishna's attention and inspires people. His purity is the force. Not that we have to be, fully, in some challenged situation. Vrindavan, you got to sit. Not that we have to be challenged or in some kind of adverse situation in order to take full advantage of the mercy of the Lord. One can also voluntarily accept surrender. I mean, we are in a disadvantaged situation anyway. It's partly realizing that I'm really helpless. The illusion, Queen Kunti says, on the opposite side is that I have something. And this prevents me from actually experiencing this kind of surrender or making this kind of surrender. She says that you may think you have wealth, and even a pauper's proud of his penny. I mean, that's relative also. Certain billionaires, it's just a relative thing. I think I got something when I got $10, and they think they got something maybe when they got another million, but it's this idea that I have something. And Queen Kunti says, if you're a kinchan, you think, I don't have anything. I have no actual support in this world. It's all illusory. I don't have anything. That person can approach Krishna with sincere feeling. And that's the essence of the process of getting mercy, is being a vessel who's empty, who can accept Krishna's mercy and take it in. So we have to do that. Prabhu.
I was listening to my spiritual master, Jayapatak Maharaj. He was telling, he was in the early days of ISKCON. He was, Srila Prabhupada was there, and then he was in the room. He took up the service of sweeping the floor. And he was humming and sweeping the floor, and I'm very happy. A person who is a millionaire who came there, he was watching him and said, how can you be so happy? In spite of, I have so many things, I have millions of dollars, so many things. How can you be so happy? As sweeping, it's just a sweeper. You're so happy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So now we're going to have a little chanting of the Hare Krishna. Oh, do you have a point? Okay. Can you fire up the harmonium? Gandharvika.
Speaking about Guru Maharaj, after he got the stroke, when we went to LA for the first time, I was just assuming that maybe Guru Maharaj was traveling so much and he was preaching. Now that he got this, he might be very morose or unhappy. And then we went there and he was like as happy as it was, like even though he's undergoing so many things, and he was just joking with the sun reflecting on somebody's head and they didn't have a hair. So he was just joking on that, and not even a moment he was regretting on what happened to him, but he had the same gratitude towards what Krishna has done, and that really gave me like so much hope, and that was a paradigm shift, that because as Indians we come to Krishna and we see that our life will be perfect and there will not be any suffering, and he's a person who gave everything to Krishna, but this happens to him, but he is still happy that, and he's not concerned about that, and he still wants to serve. That really inspired me a lot.
Nice point. We get this kind of inspiration from really seeing the surrender in others. And as you're mentioning also, you can see how how one is naturally happy, and there's no impediment to that when one's engaged in devotional service. So now we'll put away all the asanas and sacred books with great care and attention, and then we can stand up and dance to our heart's content and sing to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.